They're no longer in power.
All right. Sigei, is it also true that there were some people who stage managed their own abductions?
Morning, Trevor, and thank you for having me today. Before I answer your question, let me speak to the headline in the Standard. That, of course, more or less directs my mind to the concern that you have raised and is the headline here. Trevor, you know, it's quite unfortunate and just a sad position of the media that on a daily basis, a media house that once was the pride of communication, not only to the public in Kenya but across the world, has reduced itself into this. When you look at the story, be the judge, compare it to the previous headlines, all through, Standard has just gone down to the status of, I don't want to name names because we've got gutter presses that are all over.
Let's talk about the content of it all.
The story in the headline and the details of the story behind here is one of those we say, hii ni ya kufunga nyama nayo tukimaliza kuongea leo. Reason being, it is just an attack, has been the trend on the government, attacking morning, evening. When the PS spoke about the abductions, we have stories of previous disappearances, including by members of parliament. You remember the story of Honorable Koimburi? He said he'd been abducted. The confessions that came later on, the embarrassments that went to the office, is not anything to ignore, especially when we have similar incidences during protests like the one which ought to have happened, but fair enough, it was contained, not by what they call excessive force from the government, but Kenyans have appreciated the fact that I don't have to go to the streets when I'm being infiltrated by political players and brokers for their own selfish gain. I destroy property, I risk my life, and I risk the life of many Kenyans. And therefore, it all is not lost that the story about self-abduction could be there. But then, looking at this story here, and also the concerns that the principal secretary said there are no abductions, and that we've been given statistics, allegedly, with no details beyond what we can all read, to spread the gospel which is against the government. We don't have much details. For example, KNHCR report is for the period 2024-2025 December. We are in the month of July 2026. For a reader who will not go into the details of this story, they will say the report by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which has just been released, is speaking about 661 Kenyans who've been abducted, which is not true, because this report is for the entirety of the period 2024 December, 2025 December. And when you look at that report, Trevor, it speaks about complaints which have been raised. The complaints and the report do not go beyond one, cases which were just mere complaints, because you know a complaint is a complaint. Cases which either have been established to have been formal arrest by the police to subject one to investigations, or those who've been charged, and so many others. And therefore, even when Gladys tells us, which she's actually doing it, the unfortunate thing is the reporting by the Standard that this is what's happening when it is not. They don't bother to read the report. They don't bother to give Kenyans the statistics. They do not bother to clearly establish what are these numbers all about. And I'm happy because we are all agreeable that Kenyans have a right to demonstrate. They have a right to picket, go to the streets. That is their constitutional right. Okay. The government has not denied them the right to go to the streets. And by the way, we should be reporting. I wish there would be that aspect of reporting on what are the positives that happened when demonstrations did not occur. Did we report deaths? You see, the media and activists like those who are talking against this issue on demonstration would have been very happy to see Kenyans on the streets, people dying, and they sell the bodies and the pictures of Kenyans who've been either maimed, killed, or have attacked themselves.
You think the media is happy to report such things?
This is the story we are seeing here.
And they just
what is the
difference?
Remember, our friends right now have got nothing to report, especially when we are told how many Kenyans died. The story would have been selling if we would be talking about 661 Kenyans have died in the demonstrations. That would be trending, not only local, globally. But fortunately, no demonstrations caused any death, destruction of property, or maiming of Kenyans. So what we are talking about here is an explored option of negative story against the government. And so I would close by saying, well, no more abductions. We haven't seen them. I would want to agree with not only the tone of how this statement is coming out, but we do not have evidence of people who've been abducted and families complaining.
So what do you think happened to Lichuma?
Lichuma, I'm sure, is a subject of course, investigations right now. I do not want to speak to something I don't know. Unfortunately, there were no physical attack.
But you've conclusively said that there are no abductions. So
there are no abductions, in my view, because Lichuma is not disappeared. He's there, he's in hospital.
Okay, but he was held for more than 2 days.
Says who? That is the story of the Standard.
Where do you think he was then?
I don't know.
So then how do you rule out abduction?
I can't speak about it because it's a subject of investigations, Trevor. Other than that, I would be actually peddling the lies and the propaganda by the Standard if I was to say I know where he was, how many days he was out there, and that he was attacked or abducted. Let us wait and see.
I also sat here with Alam, one of the 7 who was who say they were abducted, and he said that he was kept in a house somewhere, not in a police station.
Yes.
He says yes, that there were no injuries. He also said that he was not injured, he was not beaten or anything, but he was kept.
That is his version of the story. Did you manage to establish otherwise what could have happened in terms of investigation?
So you don't believe in any abduction?
I do know that there are incidences where abductions are happening. But Trevor, when I recall the story about my colleague in Parliament, Kenya was almost crying. The constituency that he represents were like, the opposition was all over. Only to have our friend says, you know what, guys? This is what was happening. And I'm sorry to Kenyans.
All right. So
my colleagues. It's embarrassing.
Okay.
This is one such story that you never know.
All right.
When he is able to speak, we'll get to know part of